Chapter 1 The Shell Collector. The alarm didn't wake Henry. He was already sitting on the edge of the bed when it went off, one hand resting on his knee, the other hanging at his side like it had forgotten what it was for. He reached over and turned it off before the second beep. Lumpy, curled at the foot of the mattress, opened one eye, decided nothing had changed, and closed it again. Henry sat there another minute. That was his habit, 1 minute between sleep and standing. He'd read somewhere that the body needed time to remember itself. He wasn't sure he believed it anymore, but he kept doing it anyway. Some things you keep doing because stopping would mean deciding to stop. He stood, the apartment shifted around him, small rooms, low ceilings, the particular stillness of a place that only one person lived in. He'd moved in 14 months ago with a duffel bag, a box of kitchen things, and a paper grocery sack. He hadn't looked inside until he unpacked it on the kitchen counter and found his seashell collection wrapped in newspaper by his ex-wife, each one individually. He'd stood there a long time looking at that. He'd arranged them on the shelf above the radiator the same afternoon. There were 23 of them. He hadn't collected any since. The kitchen was small enough that the coffee maker and the toaster occupied most of the counter. Henry made coffee the same way every morning, 4 scoops, cold water to the 6-cup line, the button pressed before he'd fully committed to being awake. While it ran, he stood at the window. The street below was already moving. A woman walked a dog that pulled hard against its leash. A city bus groaned past, half empty, windows fogged. Somewhere above the roofline, the sky was the color of old dishwater. The news came on by itself. Henry had said it that way once and never changed it. He let it run while he poured his coffee, something about trade negotiations, something about a budget extension. Then the voice shifted into a register Henry had learned to recognize. Measured, careful. The register that meant something real was being not quite said. The Joint Defense Initiative moving into its 3rd production phase, with deployed units expected to reach operational capacity by. Henry turned it off. Lumpy appeared in the kitchen doorway, sat down, and stared at him with the specific intensity of a cat who had decided that food was a moral issue. "I know," Henry said. He opened the cabinet, found the can, found the opener. Lumpy ate with great seriousness while Henry drank his coffee, standing up and looked at the seashells across the room. 23 of them. The one on the far left was a lightning whelk he'd found on a trip to the coast the summer he was 12. He remembered the exact weight of it in his small hand. The way the spiral pulled your eye in and didn't let go. He rinsed his mug. He put on his jacket. He scratched Lumpy once behind the ear, and the cat tolerated it with dignity. The factory was 40 minutes by bus, out past where the neighborhood lost confidence in itself, past the last coffee shop, past the last bar with a sign that still worked, past the stretch of street where every 3rd storefront was papered over and the ones that weren't were trying very hard. Then the industrial blocks. Long flat buildings behind chain link. Loading docks. The smell of something Henry couldn't name but had stopped noticing. He badged in at the side entrance. The floor was already running. The noise was the first thing always. Not loud exactly, not like you'd think, not like hammers, more like a pressure. A low, continuous hum threaded through with the mechanical rhythm of the line. Hydraulic, repetitive, purposeful. Henry had worked here 9 months, and still, every morning, there was one moment between the door and the floor where he stopped and let the sound move through him. Then he collected his cart. Mop, bucket, 2 sprays, the roll of blue paper towels that always ran out before the end of his shift. He signed the clipboard. The floor supervisor, a wide man named Garrett who wore his ID badge on a lanyard with a sports logo on it, walked past without looking at Henry. That was normal. That was fine. Henry started at the east end and worked west. That was his route. The line was impressive if you let yourself think about it that way. Henry mostly didn't, but occasionally, moving along the periphery with his mop, he caught himself watching. The frames came in from the east base skeletal at first, just the structural core, the spine and the shoulder housing and the leg assemblies, bolt gray and angular. Then piece by piece down the line they became something else. Plating. Cabling. The head units lowered into place with a precision that seemed almost careful. The engineers and technicians moved around them like people who had stopped seeing what they were looking at. That happened in factories. Henry understood it. You looked at a thing enough times and it became a problem to be solved or a quota to be met or a Tuesday. It stopped being a thing. Henry kept seeing it. He wasn't sure if that was a character flaw or something else. He mopped around a workstation where 2 technicians talked across each other about a calibration issue, neither of them pausing as he passed. He was very good at not existing in rooms. He'd been good at it his whole life. His ex-wife had said once, not cruelly, that being with him sometimes felt like being alone in a comfortable way. He'd thought about that sentence for a long time afterward. Still did sometimes. He moved to the next station, the next. At the far end of the line, near the bay doors that opened onto the testing corridor, one of the completed units stood in its shipping cradle awaiting inspection. Fully assembled. Fully plated. The head unit faced forward, the optical sensors dark, the whole thing still with a stillness that was different from the stillness of a machine that was off. It was the stillness of a machine that was waiting. Henry mopped past it. At the door to the testing corridor, a sign read, "Authorized personnel restricted access." Through the small reinforced window in the door, Henry could see the corridor was empty. He didn't stop. He kept moving west, pushing his cart, the mop leaving clean arcs on the concrete floor. Behind him, the line hummed. The hydraulics cycled. The day continued its business. But at the next station, pausing to spray and wipe a workbench while an engineer talked on a phone 2 feet away and looked straight through him, Henry caught 3 words drifting out of the receiver pressed to the engineer's ear. Ahead of schedule. Henry wiped the bench, moved on, said nothing to anyone.